JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 8 Jojolion has finally had its long awaited finale a few months ago. And while I know I am a bit late to the party, I still want to talk about it, because Jojolion really seemed to divide the JoJo fandom. As some think it's a perfect story with a fitting finale, and others that don't quite think so due to a number of reasons, being plot holes, forgotten story elements, the introduction of many great and unique characters only for them to go seemingly nowhere. And, of course, there are some people that are like, bro, what the fuck is Jojolion? I'm still waiting for Part 6 anime. And to be honest, while all sides do have a point, I would like to ask the question, did Part 8 Jojolion even need to be perfect? Now, I'm sure the obvious answer here is yes. Why shouldn't a story be perfect? Why shouldn't the unresolved plot points of Jojolion be resolved and concluded nicely in a neat packaging? Well, it certainly could have. I'm sure there's no denying that Hirohiko Araki, the creator of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, is capable of writing some brilliantly crafted stories that contain great characters, wonderful narratives, and actual compelling antagonists. However, it seems that many people forgot that Jojolion is the story of Josuke. And while that may seem obvious, like every JoJo part is the story of its respective main character, right? But for Jojolion, it's different. Usually, in all of the other parts in JoJo, a final goal is established pretty early on, whether it being the introduction of a main villain to combat against, or having our main character follow their own goals. And while Josuke does have his own goal of finding out his true identity, this goal comparatively is just not as tangible as, say, becoming a mafia boss or wanting to beat up Dio. And therefore, for the other JoJo parts, having a villain and defeating said villain is important to the story as a whole. After all, conflict is a fundamental part of all stories. But for Part 8, that main conflict only decides to show his face near the end of the part. And while I'm fully aware of the whole Toro shitstorm that happened, some say he's brilliant and others don't, and while I wouldn't say he's a bad character, I do think that comparatively to the other JoJo villains, he does feel kinda lacking as an antagonist. And I think the reason for that is that he doesn't really need to. As I said before, Jojolion is the story of Josuke, while the other parts are the story of the main JoJo's conflict with the main villain. However, Josuke has managed to become his own conflict due to his intangible goal, thus making any other conflict feel secondary of sorts, just like Toru, Damo, or even Jobin. Now, to tackle the plot holes and unresolved plot points, from the bite marks to the infamous flashback man, there seems to be a lot of things in Jojolion that are introduced and never talked about again for whatever reason. Could it be that Araki's age is catching up to him? Was this all somehow intended to be, or is this just a case of a writer having a change of vision while still in the development of the story? I, myself, am trying to get into comic making, and I can tell you that this stuff happens. The product of your story will not always be as you envision, and sometimes your vision can change drastically with time. I mean, Jojolion has been running since 2011. The ideas the person has are bound to change, and maybe it was meant to be like this. Maybe Jojolion was intended to be a wild and confusing set of emotions, just like Josuke himself, a man like his own tale. Truly a bizarre adventure.